Good morning, everybody. I'll call this February the 25th, 2014 meeting of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors to order. I note that we do have a quorum. This morning we have Pastor Steve Rittenhauer of the Holy Trinity Lutheran Church to do our invocation. Would everybody please stand and remain standing for the pledge?
Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for all that you have given us, especially good government and elected officials who seek to serve all people in our county, from the least of these to the most influential. Keep our leaders ever mindful of the task they have been called to. Encourage them to work closely together for the good of our community. Give them your guidance and aid them in their deliberations. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I'd like to welcome everyone here this morning. First item on the agenda is citizens' time. We have one citizen signed up, Ms. Myers, and she has 3 subjects to talk about.
Yes, gentlemen, here's some paperwork. This is concerning VACO, and I'd like to hand each one of you a copy of that. As you know, I've asked you before not to endorse VACO, but that hasn't happened. And in reality, they're not doing much good for Virginia's sovereignty or individual taxpayer rights, and you can see concerning that. That is dated in January. Unfortunately, VACO has not responded to that letter with Mr. Fitzsimmons at all. So hopefully something will be forthcoming. But VACO, or our participation in VACO is actually, as far as I'm concerned, fleecing the taxpayer. We subsidize enough. I don't think the county needs to be doing that. I had submitted a FOIA request, and I haven't gotten any information back. I realized the budget business for the joint IDA wasn't available, but nobody has contacted me about the other information.
What information was that?
The joint IDA.
Have you been to joint IDA and requested from them?
No, I requested it from you guys. Aren't you their boss?
You got to the JIDA and requested information from them.
Their budget is on our website in last year's.
Really, but I wanted some other information that was indicated in the FOIA request, and so it wasn't passed along. You didn't do anything about it?
No, I don't, but I'll check into it.
Okay, thank you. Also, the consent calendar, it's always listed as new business, and I had asked you if you could list it as a line item with the list, because the general public really doesn't know what you're voting on. Most people don't go over to the library to look at the disc and so on, so it would be very helpful if you could list the items for the consent calendar on the agenda. Also, the videos have not been uploaded in a timely fashion, and I was wondering if you could get some direction to whoever's doing that to do it.
I'll check.
Okay? And was there a video presentation for the Expo Center business the other day? Did you guys tape that by chance? Would that be available?
Yes.
So that'll be on there too? And if you can see that that's pretty soon, that would be really great. People have been asking about it. And I had occasion to go on the Dunford Road the other day, and there's a portion that is not paved, and it's pitiful. So if somebody wants to go over there and look at that and help those people out, it's very, very bad. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up. Does anybody else like to speak during citizens' time? Hearing none, we'll close citizens' time. Next order of business on the agenda is the minutes from the previous meeting.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
I have a second. Second. Do I hear any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye. Yeah.
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes 6 with 1 abstention. Next order of business on the agenda is payment of invoices.
Mr. Chairman, I move we pay the invoices.
I have a second.
Aye.
Have a motion and a second. Have any discussion on any invoice?
May I have one comment? I think there's a, Mr. McRoberts, I think there's one payment in the invoices to you. You probably need to.
I'll refrain from voting upon that.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, during the, I guess, storm and stuff, we'd contracted with Mr. McRoberts to do some work, and then one of the invoices is a payment to him. And my advice to him is not to vote upon that, abstain from voting on the bill.
Do I need to make the second then, instead of him doing it?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll second it, that we pay the bills.
Do you have any other additions or questions about any of the invoices? I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Hausman?
Aye.
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 I'll abstain from voting on that.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes 6 with 1 abstention. Next order of business is old business on the agenda. We have one item under old business. The Fire and Rescue Committee report. Mr. Hausman?
Oh, we're doing that instead of during the reports?
Yeah, it's
I mean, I
listed,
can-
it's listed twice. We'll go ahead and do it under.
Okay, I didn't have it listed under old business, but I can certainly do it. Let me pull it up here. Okay. Fire and Rescue Committee met on February the 18th, 2014, and made the following recommendations to the Wythe County Board of Supervisors. One, to approve the mutual aid agreement with Guardian Emergency Medical Services Incorporated.
Okay, coming from committee, it doesn't need any second. Have any discussion? Mr. Dalton, would you like to speak?
It just gives us another opportunity with a local group that has licensed people to respond in emergencies, and it dictates how they will be called, and they will be put on the protocol over at the dispatch center next week here locally in Wytheville anyway.
Okay, is there any more discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next item.
And number 2, I will read this as it's written, that all extrication calls be handled by fire departments as previously authorized by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, come from committee, it doesn't need a second. Any discussion?
I have a few things.
That should have been a reading, authorized as voted on by the Fire and Rescue Committee instead of the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, well, that was my first question, because I had not known that that was authorized by the board. Okay, so then,
Motion is changed.
motion is changed, okay. All right, the second thing, I have just 2 other things, one statement and one question. When we had the Fire and Rescue Committee, one person that we had present was Captain Jerry Davis from Virginia State Police. One of the reasons that he was here was certainly to talk about how things were handled on the interstate and on roads whenever there was a wreck, and talking about the possibility of changing some protocols to help the state police and keep things moving and as basically as clutter-free as possible. But another question that he was addressed with was, did he think that only fire departments should do extrication? His answer was that the state police didn't care. What the state police wanted were people who were certainly certified and qualified to do it, but he also said that at a wreck, during the extrication, they had no idea who was doing it, whether it was fire department or rescue squad, unless they asked. So, I guess what I'm saying here is I agree with him that we have certified and qualified people that do extrication regardless of which organization they belong to. The third thing is, my question is, Mr. Chairman, does this have the effect of invalidating a motion that was made and passed at the last meeting with a majority of 5-1?
I don't think it negates that, as far as giving the truck back, as far as I know, the truck has been given back to Lead Mines, hasn't it?
Yes.
It's in their possession. But as far as,
Okay, then let me ask one other question, and so then Lead Mines would have the truck, but with this motion, they would not be able to use it? I'm just asking, is that not the effect of the motion?
yeah, that would be the effect of the motion.
So the truck then goes into a useless state like it has been?
I'm going to get a different answer.
Okay.
How about that? Currently, what the protocol has always been and still is in effect at dispatch, that fire and rescue are assigned to the scene. Fire department, as part of their assistance, is to get there and evaluate. The fire chief is actually in charge of that scene, except for the wrecks and maybe the sheriff. The protocol for the rescue squad is patient care. So if the fire chief says we need the pumper truck or the crash truck, then it's going to come to the scene. But that'll be assessed when they get there.
Okay, then just to clarify that, Lead Mines, if they are in possession of the crash truck and a fire department calls for the crash truck, the people from Lead Mines bring it out and use it.
That if they ask for those resources, it's like them asking for speedwell for second due. The fire chief is there, is still in charge of the scene, and he assigns the next group in there to those duties. If you got a multiple crash scene, you may need multiple extraction equipment.
So when the motion, or when it says being handled, that means the fire department makes the call.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there's quite a bit of history here that I don't think Mr. Hausman's aware of. That truck's been in place for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They've never used it.
Right?
And long before the crew was dissolved, it was kept at Jackson. It made a nice spot in the fire rescue parade in the fall in Wythe.
I understand that.
When it was used, they brought it to the scene as a backup for the fire department to use it. Those folks never did the extractions. And that, according to some of their board members, is the intent today. So, we've got lots bigger problems than this truck. It's just another sideshow that's diverting our attention from the real problems at hand. We talked about this in Fire and Rescue Committee long before this thing ever come up about who was going to have the truck, that fire departments had the manpower and the training to do these things, and at the very time the rescue squads are struggling for membership, we're giving them more work to do that they haven't done previously. And that's why I'm going to look for this, is that fire departments have the manpower and the training to do it, and it's not a second roster, or can we get somebody to come? Thank you.
Are you sure the fire department's got the manpower?
Yes, sir.
Have we asked the fire departments what their opinions on this is?
We have.
I'm sorry, which fire departments do we talk to? Because as chairman of Fire and Rescue, I don't remember talking to any of them.
Well, we've had a policy to visit the fire departments, and the Max Meadows Fire Department answers most of the interstate calls in that end of the county. Bear Springs sometimes. But They have been doing the extrications all along. They have the manpower to do it. They want to continue to do it.
Okay. Well, that, yeah, still on the lower end of the county leaves, two fire departments. But the only, in response, if I made to Mr. Hill's, comments about not using the truck, one of the things that we've done is we have reorganized them and made them a brand-new, organization. It's not, the same people with the same, the same agendas. So, I will tell you, based on, my conversations, with people, I will, vote no on this. But then I'm, again, realize I'm just, one vote, and I will be glad to, if there's no other question, call for the question.
Mr. Hausman, Mr. Hill, I'm part of the Fire and Rescue Committee too. I think we can come to a compromise on this as far as, and we may have to change the motion a little bit, is that I think we all want for somebody to be out on the interstate or at a wreck that is in charge of the scene, and I think the statute gives the fire chief that authority when they arrive on the scene. And in my opinion, they should be the first called out. And if they do need assistance, since we right now only have one rescue squad that wants to do extrications, I don't think Rural Retreat, that I know of, has their rescue squad does any extrications, or Wythe County Rescue Squad does any extrications. So that just leaves the one in the county. The vote was to give the truck back to lead mines, I'd still like a list of the individuals and their certifications and what is the equipment the attire they need, to do extrications. I don't think just a set of coveralls is what you need, as far as doing extrications. You need the full turnout helmets, shields, and all that the fire departments have. But I do think if we voted to let them have the truck back, so, if they are needed, if we have multiple accidents on the interstate and, a second crash truck is needed and they're the closest and they have the personnel to dispatch that in a timely manner, I think, that's maybe our compromise to go to. Any other feelings on that from anybody?
I have a lot of feelings about that myself. But, what happens if you got 2 or 3 accidents at the same time, and you got Maximus here with 2 people? That's probably all they'll have. And somebody down here on the other end, 5 miles down the road, you'll need an extrication truck. Are we to wait till another fire department comes? Or is them people in that vehicle gonna wait till another fire department can get there to get them out?
Well, I think the officer on the scene, if the fire department's tied up with something, and the officers are on the scene and they gonna be calling for another extrication truck, whoever's available should be the next one to go. I'm talking about on the scene. If a fire chief is on the scene, if they're available and they're on the scene, then if they need an extra one, they can dispatch lead lines. Or if they're busy and they're the next closest, they can be dispatched.
You're looking,
Coy, the way dispatch works is that there's first due, there's second due. If the fire department and the rescue squad, lead mines, is tied up at the first wreck that you called upon, then automatically in the protocol, there's a second due of both fire and rescue of whoever's being backed up on those calls. So in your instance, if there was a third, then there would be a third.
so you're saying that you're not gonna take that truck back away from me?
That's not part of what we're talking about. Matter of fact, if the fire chiefs, if they are needed at the scene, I'd say that that'd be the first person that they call, because dispatch is going to know all the resources that's at that scene. Same thing with the fire. If there's a second fire in Speedwell at the same time, or a wreck, you're going to send, by protocol, those second due people.
You know, when you're talking about somebody's life, 10 minutes is a long time. Could be a short time. I won't vote for that.
Can I just ask one more point of clarification with the actual motion? This motion doesn't say that rescue squad members cannot perform extrication.
Does not.
It just says the fire departments will make the call. But lead mines or Wythe County or Rotary could perform the extrication if the people are qualified to do it with their equipment. Okay.
I have a question on that. When we're saying that the fire department's gonna make the call, does that mean that only the fire department is the ones that can call for the extrication equipment? I mean,
You've had same names class, Gene, I've had. Who's in charge of the scene?
well, I understand the fire department's in charge of the scene, but what I'm saying is this, I mean, we get a call over in Speedwell, and they call Wythe County Rescue Squad, and they say possible entrapment. Okay, Wythe County Rescue Squad is going to be en route right then because they're on call 24/7. It's going to take the fire department at the best probably 5 minutes to get to the firehouse. So it takes them another 5 minutes to get to the wreck. So that's 10 minutes, and then they have to call for the crash truck. I mean, is that the way it's going to be, or is it going to be that if they say there's possible entrapment, they're just going to automatically send the crash truck?
Well, there were a bunch of things that answers your question. I don't know that Speedwell's got any extraction equipment currently.
All we have is hammers,
Yep.
unless
So-
you want to buy something put on a truck.
Well, at some point in time this year, everybody's got to have equipment.
Well, that was going to be my next question was, are we going to buy equipment for
Second.
the fire departments?
But currently, we know you don't have.
Right.
So somebody else that has it, it's going to be put to the scene. More than likely, at Speedwell, it's either Rural Retreat or Wytheville. Most of your second due this way is on 21 is Wytheville. And they're there 24/7 too. So, I mean, it's about protocol, it's about dispatch. And who's in charge? And that's the bottom line of the thing. Do we have all the equipment? Every fire department have exactly what they need to do extraction? We know that's not the case.
Right.
But dispatch does know, and I would say a lot of these scenes, the first person on the scene is a policeman.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so, you're going to get all kinds of information from different people. So, but it comes back to really a dispatch, and the information is provided back to the dispatch, and dispatch is the only people that knows where everybody is at, and if they're either tied up or not tied up.
Well, for clarification, can we find out the disposition of Wythe County's extrication and their truck? JD's here.
Well, why don't we do this morning? I'm going to table this and send it back to committee for further evaluation, and we can bring in the other rescue squads and the fire and some of the chiefs and talk to them and get the motion right before we bring it to a vote.
Okay, can Chairman table a motion that's on the floor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to other. I think Mr. McRoberts has a nomination for the Tourism Committee.
I do have. Mr. Sweeney called me. He is over the parks at Foster Falls,
River State Park.
and he agreed to accept that tourism
I
appointment.
have
I forget what his first name is.
Sam.
Sam.
Sam Sweeney. And I have a second on nominating Sam Sweeney to the Tourism Committee.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor of nominating Sam Sweeney to the Tourism Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Tell Mr. Sweeney congratulations. Okay, anything under old business, Mr. Dalton?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to reports. We have with us from Wythe County Schools, Dr. Lee Brennan. Welcome.
Good morning. How's everyone today? Good to see everyone. Good. Board members, I usually 3 or 4 or 5, 6, ever how many times it takes, come to you each year and sort of give you quarterly reports of, or semi-quarterly reports of how the school system's doing. And I will mention through the specific areas that I usually do. I'll talk about community and how our students are involved in our school system, instruction, personnel, finance, and other areas, just to give you some highlights on some things that we do as we go through this process. Just want you to know the school system did host the Virginia Board of Education president during a visit. They came down to Wythe County, went to Royal Retreat Elementary School and observed our schools and came down to inspect the region, I guess you will. It was sort of their tour of the state, and we had a great visit. Royal Retreat Elementary School was a great host. They were very impressed by all the activities going on. Now, the one thing about it, since we have a new governor, he is no longer on the Board of Education, so you see how politics work in some regard to those appointments. But it was good to have him down here, and also Dr. Billy Canaday came down, who's a former state superintendent in the state of Virginia. So that was a great thing for Wythe County Public Schools to have them in our presence. They actually hosted a forum in Abingdon that we were in attendance at and listened to the issues in front of public education. We have a lot of groups who are not only students, and you all hear about the SOLs and the standards and all the testing and assessment that's going on, but I just want you to know our students are also involved in numerous other things to not only help within their school, but in the community. Just for example, a lot of our groups have drives throughout the year to assist the Carrington Place. They have toy drives for Christmas projects. Clothing drives to help out those who are not as fortunate. The Agape Food Pantry is a major receiver of food drives that we have within our county, and plus we have several other community efforts going on by our students. So in the time of SOL and testing, I just want you to know that we continue to serve our community too, and we teach students not only to be great test takers and good academic students, but to realize the importance of being a good citizen in Wythe County as well. We had a student from Scott Memorial Middle School who actually attended the Super Bowl. If you read in the newspaper, he won a contest through a card industry. I won't name one because if I name one, I have to go through all of them. But he won a contest, and he actually was an on-field reporter at the Super Bowl in New York or New Jersey, whichever fight that you agree with, where the Super Bowl was held this year. But, you know, he was able to go on the field. He interviewed Marshawn Lynch. You know, everybody that was important, Russell Wilson, all the players, he was right there. And there's video clips of it on Scott's website. And he actually has his own website and blog about what he talked about. It was Curtis Case from Scott Memorial Middle School. So we actually had a student kid reporter at the Super Bowl from Wythe County Public Schools. So that was a great event as well. Our robotics team at the Technology Center is again competing in a robotics contest statewide. They now have the robot bagged and tagged, if you will. There's a certain date that they are able to perform all the tasks that this robot is going to perform in the competition. Once that date comes, they have to seal it up, tag it, and make sure they put the date that they can make no further changes until they get to the competition. So our engineering class at the Technology Center is doing that again. This is the 6th year that we've participated in that, and last year we finished as runner-up. So we're looking to hope to win the state competition with our robotics team at Wythe County Technology Center. Another interesting thing, the arts are one of the things that we really emphasize, and want to tell you that the Play Fund is another organization which relies on donations and other support from the Education for Excellence in Wythe County and the Wythe Plan Foundation support to bring barter theater players to Wythe County. A lot of times, if you have to load up students and take them to the area, it takes a lot of instructional time away. And the Play Fund is an organization we have now that actually brings barter theater participants to the schools. And then we try to communicate and bring all the kids to the school where they're performing to make sure that they're exposed to that type of art in the barter theater. Athletically, it's been a big weekend as we continue to move on. We've had successful programs in the fall and in the winter sports as well. The number one accomplishment was Rural Retreat High School's wrestling team captured the first state championship in school history at Rural Retreat High School, and the wrestling team won the state championship this past weekend in front of a jam-packed full crowd at Salem Civic Center. If you've never been to the Civic Center and seen it full, just come to the state wrestling match and meet, and you will see that. Rural Retreat had 4 individual state champions, and then our other Hoagahigi school, George Wythe, finished 3rd in the state and had 2 individual state champions. So wrestling is alive and well. On the way back, I think I got back about 11:30 on Saturday night, and the town was there to greet them about 12 o'clock, around midnight, between 11:45 and 12 at the depot. They'd already had signs made, and it's in front of the school now. So you all get to see that today on our tour, but they're really excited about that, and just excellent people to go forward. In their swim state meet, we had finishers finish as high as they've ever finished in Wythe County. So our swim programs continue to grow, continue to move up. We did not have any individual winners, but we had people in the finals. And when you go to the state meet, that's a great accomplishment when you bring swimmers from all across the state and they're competing against 1A and AA schools at the same time. There's not enough schools to have separate state championships. So to have students in the finals was a great accomplishment for that group as well. Indoor track, which is another sport that you don't hear about a lot. The 1A West Regional was held this past weekend, and we have 4 other students that are going on to participate in the state meet, which I think is Wednesday and Thursday of this week. At that, Meredith Willis won 4 events at the 1A West Regional, and also Elijah Onks won the triple jump as well. I think Meredith won the 55, the 300, the long jump, and the triple jump. I think I'm pretty close on those. So they're going to be competing for state championships this week in the indoor track state championship. So just lots of good things coming out as far as community news and athletic events. Instruction-wise, first year of blended learning in the high school science classrooms is going very well. We received a grant from the Wythe Plan Foundation to incorporate blended learning through our school science, integrating math and science into the classroom. There's lots of positive feedback from the students, teachers, and administrators on how this is going up to this point. We're using technology as well as using mathematics within our science classrooms to try to bring STEM education a part of it and to try to expose more kids to science and math, which is what we need for the future. We have applying now for a one-on-one device program through the state. The state provides funding for certain schools that during this whole academic review process, they feel like it'd be advantageous for them to do that. Fort Chiswell High School is the one that's going to qualify for a new e-learning backpack program, which guarantees a laptop to each student starting at the 9th grade level, and they will have that laptop to use all 4 years through school. So this is a 4-year program by the state. What we were doing from the school board's perspective, we're going to start this initiative with state money. Then what we hope to do is then initiate that same process at Rural Retreat and at George Wythe High School for the future. Obviously, if you hadn't been in the classroom for a while, each one of you all now see sitting at your seats, you have an iPad or a laptop, and we feel like student learning is heading that way as well. So if you have a student in the middle school or somewhere in that range, by the time they get to the high school, the one-on-one device is going to be something of the future. We plan on funding things in the future, possibly with textbook money. The state allows us to use that if we incorporate our textbooks into the device, then we're able to use textbook money to purchase these laptops or iPads for the other schools in the future. But the state is providing about, of course, there's always a local match to anything that the state sends down, but this e-backpack learning program will be piloted at Fort Chiswell High School. The automotive program at the Technology Center is now fully certified for all those students, so whenever they complete that course, they will be able to get the proper certification as they come through our automotive program. Instruction-wise, there's two areas that I'll just stand before you right now and tell you that we are completely focused on this year and part of last year. It's an area, I think, every time I've come to you all, I never try to hide anything. I tell you if we have a deficiency in an area, and right now it's in mathematics instruction and it's in special education instruction. Those are two areas that we have a intense focus on. We're providing professional development 1 day a week. It's voluntary for most teachers. If not, it's mandatory for them to attend this. And we want to see, we've set goals for marked improvement in each area. I've stood before you and told you before that the math tests are no longer 2- and 3-step computation anymore. They are like what you took probably as a test where you had to read a paragraph and then remember you had to go down and then answer 4 or 5 questions about the paragraph that you had just read. That's what a math problem is now. You know, it's not just 2 times 2 is 4, and if you have 4 of these and you want to do it 6 more times, what's the answer? 24. Well, that's not the way the mathematics, the more rigor that the state has put in has allowed for this critical thinking skill in mathematics to be able to read the problem and then be able to take what you read and put it into this area. Two areas we're concentrating on is the vocabulary, which we feel like as students read this content, if they do not understand the vocabulary, they might understand the math part and the numbers part, but they don't have the vocabulary, then they're not going to be strong in answering the math problems. So those are 2 areas that we're concentrating on this year. We've set goals to have at least a 12 to 15% increase in the amount of improvement we see in each classroom, which can dictate about where we're at. If you're at 80% and you have a 12% increase, then we're moving to where we want to be and make sure all students have the math that they need for the future. Also in special education, I mentioned, number one of the things that we participate in is the Medicaid program in the state. We're making sure that we comply with all state and federal requirements, or state requirements for Medicaid reimbursement. That again, when we provide services to kids, it brings income back to the school system, which helps offset the cost that we have in those areas. So we're making sure we're on top of that. Instructional in-services, as I mentioned, been conducted each month since September. Attendance at each session, we're doing multiple opportunities for different times for teachers to come and attend those. The special education compliance in-services have been conducted each month as well. Because if you're familiar with the education system, it's not only the instruction part, there's a big compliance piece of IEPs and all the requirements that we have to do in special education. So we're blending together compliance with instruction. Technology, as we continue to grow each and every year, and thanks to the support that we have within our budget, we have been able to keep up with the technology changes that have been going on throughout the last 20 years. Upgrades to our network infrastructure are ongoing. Updates to all of our school websites have now been completed. If you look now on our school website, each school website is similar to the county website. So there's not 14 different versions of websites as you go through and look up the schools on the internet. We purchased and installed 100 new laptops, 4 computer labs, 100 new tablets, smart boards, wireless access points, short throw projectors, and for all blended learning high school science classrooms. So integrating that technology and having a blended science classroom, we must have the technology to go with it to be successful. We have now set up email accounts for all 8th through 12th grade students, which will be in use for instruction only, hopefully. We can keep an eye on them, but you know, we just feel like the changing times and things that go along with it, we need to embrace it and give the students that responsibility of being able to handle it. In my opinion, it's no different back in the day when I probably used to sneak a comic book in, okay? Keep it in my back pocket or in my jacket. Today, they want to sneak their cell phones or their iPods or whatever it might be in. So it's no different than it always has been. It's just a different version of what they have to have to survive as a teenager or an adolescent. So we're working to try to get that median to where we can balance it between allowing these types of things, but yet keeping the discipline in check to where they don't abuse them during the time period they're in school. We have upgraded the Speedwell internet speed. Speedwell is an issue for us as far as internet connectivity. We have increased it from 5 millibytes to 10 with a booster over there, but it still doesn't provide us with everything we need in the Speedwell area. We're working with the cable and internet companies and also with the cell phone company. I've even jumped on board. I don't know what your all's involvement in that is, but trying to get them to install a booster because we have contracts with them as well, trying to get them to put a booster in the Speedwell area. They say it's on their 5-year plan to do that. Now, I don't know how accurate that will be in the future. Human resources, we now have a fully implemented online job applications as well. You can go to the internet now, you can search our jobs, you can fill out the application online, and whenever a person applies, each principal now has access to that. So if we have a custodial opening and they've talked to HR about it, they can now go online and review all the applicants that we have for custodian job, teacher job, and things of that nature. We are heavily participating in the job fairs around the state. We're looking to diversify our teaching staff. We're looking to get the very best and brightest that we can to come to Wythe County. There's been job fairs in Salem, which we were recently a participant in. There's going to be one in Abingdon. There's going to be one in Concord, which is in West Virginia. So we're actively going out and making sure that we can recruit and try to retain the best teachers in the area. Finances. We're not here to discuss budget today, and I'm not going to take time doing that, but I will tell you, you've probably heard of the issues that will be facing us. The VRS, Virginia Retirement System increase, has been placed on the teacher fund, okay? So if you don't hear about it from your side of it, the VRS, the General Assembly, has passed over the next 3 bienniums that the teacher fund will be balanced. So that requires an increase each year over the next 3 bienniums. So we'll be looking at that. We obviously have health insurance concerns. And we're looking at just the cost of operations going up. If you haven't bought tires lately, especially as big as a bus tire, you need to check those and see how the price has gone up in recent times. So the cost of operations, the VRS increase, and health insurance, and then trying to do something for our employees at some time is the major topics that we're looking at in financing and budget. Capital improvements, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that either. We're going to be participating in some tours today, and we look forward to seeing you. That we'll have lunch at Sheffey, and then we will travel back down to Rural Retreat. We might have to leave you all for a second at Rural Retreat. They're doing an assembly for the wrestling team down there today, and our school board will be presenting their resolution, but I think we've got all the times worked out, Mr. Dalton, where it'll still fit in with everybody's schedule, and we'll have Dr. Poole with us, and we'll go from there. So, any questions or concerns about any of those topics or any other areas that you all can think of while I'm here?
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Brennan?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that the Board of Supervisors draft a resolution congratulating Roy Treat High School on their single A state wrestling championship, and also to set aside a time in a board meeting that we might have the team and the coaches come down to make that presentation.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Dr. Brennan,
Thank
for
you
your
all.
update. Look forward to each quarter hearing from the school.
Sure. Thank you all. I'll see you later on this afternoon.
I would also like to make a suggestion, if somebody would like to make a motion, that we also recognize the 2 state champions from George Wythe with a resolution too. And they're coming in 3rd in the state.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next report, Mr. Sam Crockett, Treasurer. Come on up, Sam.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
On first page, our consolidated account report. Currently, we have $51,843,000 in all of our accounts. Our general fund balance on our trial balance is $33,004,000. And then our collections, as of yesterday afternoon, we've we've collected $17,553,766, which is about 97% of our projected budget for the year. Still got a lot of delinquent taxes out on personal property. Hopefully, this next month and a half, we'll come on in and do some paying of the personal property before we send out our notices for the delinquent notices and the DMV stops, because we had a bunch of them. The other day, when we had a meeting up here for the revenue projection, question was asked about the John Rife and TACS and what their collections were, and I told them we had a report, and I passed it out the other day when we were up here. We didn't go over it, this report here, but what John and them have currently, we sent them 142 records. They totaled $586,000. Had about $10,555 were canceled. They just weren't worth doing, I guess. I'm not sure exactly why they were all canceled. And they have adjusted amount of $3,420 were some of them weren't exactly accurate, I guess. That's one reason for doing these things, is cleaning up your tax books. And to date, on the contracts that they're doing down there in Richmond, they've collected $120,000. We get about $18,000 to $20,000 a month from them for back taxes, because they do contracts like we do, except people pay more because they're paying them at 20%. So currently, they have a balance of $459,000 down there, 123 accounts, and they've collected about 20% of it. As far as having our next judicial sale, I've been on John about that, and he wants to wait till the weather gets a little warmer and have a little warmer period. And I told him we didn't want to wait too long to have it, but it'll be fine. And I'm planning on trying to get the community center again for our sale, to have it across the street over there. And probably we'll get Duke Yont to put it on again like we did last time. We had a good turnout. We had over 100 bidders last time, so it worked out pretty good. And we just had a deal the other day, and I sent Salel and Bruce an email about it. Somebody, after all these years, 4 years gone by, he finally got somebody to prove he bought 2 unknown properties and one that wasn't mapped. And he finally proved that they didn't exist, and we had to refund $2,400 or something to it. But, it's just the way it goes. But I called and checked with the attorney, but there's no limitations on how long. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. And the Commissioner's Office has exonerated 2011, 12, and 13 off the books. And that's part of the process, is to clean your books up and get accurate real estate things on the books. So that's where we stand with the judicial sale. Anybody got any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Sam?
I got one. Faye, do you just delete that tax map number off the books? Is that how you do it?
Some of them, like, 2 of them were unknown, and one of them didn't have a map number, so we just delete those off totally because they've been absorbed into the surrounding property. Actually, on these pieces of property, they had color engineering to see if they could find anything on them, and they did find that they had been absorbed into surrounding properties over the years. So those map numbers are just deleted.
So do you send up something so we take it off our map totally?
Like 2 of them didn't have a map number at all.
Okay. I just wondered how we kept our GIS stuff.
Well, we sent up something to whatever his name is, Brandon.
Brandon, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd had some other properties on that same sale that didn't exist, but this guy just happened to wait 4 years before he took care of his. But like I said, that's part of the process to clean the tax rate.
On the others that we find out that during Rife, the attorneys reviewed Sam, do you give that to Faye so she can send us directions to remove those tax numbers? Okay.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Faye, your name it's not on the list. Do you have anything? Sheriff?
A couple small items, might be that. Needless to say, the weather hasn't been real good in February for us on our trash pickup. That aside, we've picked up 412 bags and 12,360 pounds on the days that we have been able to work. One of these, this past week, we were actually able to work 3 days in a row. And we have been promised extra personnel to use during the week to where we can do 3 times a week on trash pickup instead of just 1 day a week. And that will last till May. Then they go back to their other duties. And the one thing that I had been asked by the county to check on, which was a road I believe Mr. Hausman had a complaint on.
Oh, yes.
Generally, when we have a complaint on that, what we do is give them a copy of the statute if we find it, and then we go back second time with enforcement. So far, we haven't had to issue that statute to these people. We have found no debris in the road, and it's in an area that we're in quite frequently. And VDOT has re-gravelled that stretch where the problem was reported to you. So it is being addressed, but we're not finding anything in the road that shouldn't be there.
Well, I know.
Other than ruts, which we get, that doesn't count.
And the other thing, and I think you may have gotten a copy of the email, but Jeff Russell also was turning it over to their, I can't remember which department, but it's the one that deals with commercial entrances. Because he said that right now, they seem to be using the whole roadway as a commercial interest. And
I can't do anything.
I understand that, but I was just letting you know.
Yeah,
That,
I
you know,
got a
that
copy of yours.
VDOT is, addressing it that way too.
Right.
But thank you for going out there. I, get those calls occasionally, and I think that when they call, it probably is a mess.
Actually, we went the day after I got the email, because I got the email late.
Okay.
Not through their fault, but through my checking of the email. Went out the next morning, and there was nothing there.
Well, and I think that email probably went out maybe a couple days or so after I got the email. And I also know that, the person that complains does, complain about it.
Previously.
Yeah, and, but I
And
think.
previously, it was a different group that was running the sawmill.
Do what?
It was a different group running the sawmill previously. That sawmill has changed hands.
Right.
And since the new owner, there hasn't been an issue with it until now.
Well, I haven't gotten any, I used to get noise complaints all the time. I haven't gotten those, but, did, get to complain about the road. But I want to thank you for going out and checking and also for what VDOT, I'm very appreciative of what they've done because, steps have been taken. There's not anything else that we can ask for.
Yeah, it's kind of an obscure statute, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
I understand.
And not a lot of people are aware of it.
Mhm.
That's why we give them one chance.
Yeah.
Previous owners had been advised, and then they started taking care of it. So that took care of that.
But thank you, Sheriff.
You're welcome. Does anybody have Rakestown Road still on the list?
No, I got another.
Other than Rakestown.
I'll give it to you now, and I won't have to do it in my report. This is Route 619 to Pope Road. The
Huddle
lady
Road.
that owns the storage place down here, she's the one calling me. I can tell you what.
That's Huddle Road, Sheriff.
I'm familiar with the road. I'm just trying to figure how Pope gets back into it.
It comes,
Back in right there below the leaves.
yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking the same thing at first. I was thinking Pope Road and.
Oh, right there,
Yeah,
from
Yeah,
right
619
below
is
Robin's
the
store there
problem.
to Porter's Crossroad. That's where she's
From
on.
Pope back to Porter's Crossroads,
Yeah.
you're saying? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Does anyone else have any road for the sheriff or anything else for the sheriff? Thank you, Sheriff. And hopefully we can work with the jail in the spring. Maybe we can get some more individuals if we ever get fully
Biggest
staffed.
problem the jail has is they've got a pretty large turnover, and they have to be at full staff in order to get these extra people in housing. And so far, that's not happening. They're losing them as fast as they get them.
Yeah, maybe one of these days we'll get up to full staff.
Yeah.
They can open up another
Another
trustee
wing,
wing,
indeed.
and we can get some more people. Water committee, do we have anybody from the water committee? What am I talking about? Gene?
He didn't show up.
Hey, did he show up?
What?
Sorry, water committee report.
I was gonna say, let Gary
Or,
Well, that's right. Yeah, that was.
I had to drive a school bus because we were 2 hours late that
Yeah.
day, so I didn't miss
Okay.
that meeting.
The Water Committee met on February the 18th, 2014, and recommended awarding the Route 619 improvements project to Valley Contractors Incorporated at a base bid of $137,690. And this approval is contingent upon concurrence by Rural Development. And if you're interested, of course, Pete and Bortz, kind of did this for us, and all the bids are included in your packet if you're interested. So, but Valley Contractors Incorporated were the lowest bids, and I think that they are a company from Saltville, Virginia. I think that they see it. So, anyway, so that's the recommendation.
okay, coming from a committee, it doesn't need any second. I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Yeah.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Anything else from Water Committee?
No.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the County Administrator's Report. Mr. Dalton?
Really nothing to report at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. County Attorney, Mr. Farley?
I don't have anything to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go down to the Board of Supervisors report. We'll start with District 1, Blacklick District. Mr. Hausman?
Yeah, the only thing I will say, again, I congratulate, Roy Treat and George Wythe for their excellent showing at the state single A wrestling tournament, and we did have several individual champions, which was great. Just because I know who was principal then, I will say that it's not the first Virginia High School League championship in the history of the school. In 1993, they were state forensics champions. So I just wanted to get that on the record, so that it's not all athletics. It's academics too. Granted, it was several years ago, but it was significant. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hausman. We'll go to West Whitfield. Mr. Hall?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. District 3, East Whitfield?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we go to District 4. Mr. Hale?
Nothing but normal road complaints, and Mr. Dalton's take care of those.
Okay, we'll go to Nexton, Lead Mines.
I don't have anything, Mr.
Roberts.
Chairman.
Next, Mr. Horny.
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, we'll go to me at large. I've had several complaints about the gravel roads in the county, and Mr. Dalton informed me that he's contacted VDOT and informed them that all the gravel roads need to be scraped and re-gravelled, and VDOT is well aware of the situation. They're just going to have a little bit of time to get to all the roads. I talked with Mr. Russell, and he said, with all the, thawing, rain, snow, refreezing and stuff, it just tears these gravel roads all to pieces and the potholes and stuff just come up, and they'll get to them. He promised me they would get to them as soon as they could. We'll move on, agenda, to new business. We have the consent calendar. for February, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on anything in the consent calendar? Hear none, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Hausman?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye. Consent calendar is passed. Anything else under used business, Mr. Dalton? I think we have a
The resolution.
resolution, if I can find it here.
Well, Mr. Chairman, while you look, I'll go ahead and make, since this is in my district, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve this resolution, and it's very short, so let me just read it real quickly. At a regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of Wythe County held in Wytheville, Virginia, this 25th day of February 2014, it was duly moved and seconded that whereas on Route 830, Creekside Road in Wythe County, the bridge is substandard and VDOT has deemed it needs to be replaced, and whereas all the citizens have been notified by VDOT and are in agreement with the closure, and now therefore be resolved that the Board of Supervisors hereby supports the decision of the Department of Transportation to close this section of Route 830 through traffic located near the intersection of Blacklick Road and Creekside Drive for approximately 5 days or until reconstruction of the structure is complete. So, again, my motion is to adopt that.
Okay, you've heard the resolution, and we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Having a second, any discussion about the resolution? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. Resolution passes 7-0. Is there anything else under new business, Mr. Dalton?
No, but y'all have gone at record speed. We need to leave for the school tour about 11:15 or 11:20.
Mr. Horny's advised me that he has to drive the bus this afternoon, and we have about an hour here, and do I have any objections that we go ahead and move into the, going over the ordinance?
Not I.
If I can find it here.
Mr. Chairman, would a short break be in order?
Yes, Mr. Howes.
Okay.
We'll take a 10-minute recess.
Was also exempt from the personal property taxes. So the definition of a farm utility vehicle sort of describes these off-road vehicles, but it clearly says it does not include a pickup truck or a panel truck. So it's clear that a farm utility vehicle is not a truck. It's something like an ATV or a Gator, some sort of vehicle like that. So that's the changes that we had made just to be consistent with ATV being exempt under regular personal property, making sure that the farmers have that same exemption, because they're not designed solely for harvesting a product as a tractor or some other machine might be.
Okay, and as far as H, including farm tractors and farm utility, farm tractors, putting it as the Code of Virginia states, that would exempt everybody in the county, all farm tractors, no matter where you farmed or not.
For horticulture use, mowing operation. I think it specifically says lawnmower. Under 46.2 under that definition.
Other than that, that's what we talked, this is the same thing we talked about the other day.
Does any board member have any questions for Mr. Farthing?
Okay. The other day when we talked, and I can't, what were the three code sections that we deleted from that other one?
It's in your board package, under the, the ordinance in the board package does not has those three in it. So
Okay.
it's J, K, and L in the one that's in the board package.
But what,
Privately owned trailers,
I mean, is it 46, Chapter 58, what is it?
It's 46.2-100, one of them is.
Well, that's the
That's the
definition for
definition
everything.
section.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was 665, 666, and 670.
From Chapter 46?
No, the exemptions are in 58.1, 3504 and 3505.
All right, 3504 and 3505?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to look at just a second, please. Or I want to look at.
Martha, can you log in on the internet, type in Code Virginia, and then go to 58.135? Just flash it up on your screen. Take just a moment, Joe. Thirty-five oh four and 3505.
I think 3505 is the one that I was most
That's
interested in.
the farm equipment, machinery
Yeah.
stuff.
It's chapter 31.
What I'm looking at is Chapter 58.1-3505. And what I'm specifically looking at is item 12.
What is your question?
My question is, right now, as of, with this, is number 12, is it included in the definitions under 46.2-100? I'll just tell you, I'm specifically thinking about,
Motor vehicle might be there in the definition section.
okay, yeah, specifically what I am thinking about are what I'll call, silage trucks or inch-leach trucks that farmers use basically, once a year. And
The requirement for the registration, for the tags, these other code sections here, have those rules where you don't have to get tags for those trucks, which is what they're doing now. They're not registering that truck.
right,
Right, so if you attempt to protect, this is just me thinking out loud a little bit, but if you're attempting to protect the silage truck, you can't exclude the pickup truck. Because if VDOT or if DMV doesn't require them to register the truck because they claim it's used for only agriculture purposes, then they don't have to put tags on it.
so,
Then they could argue that my pickup truck's exempt because DMV is not making me put a tag on it.
The motor vehicle definition, there is a definition 46.2 here.
mhm.
It says motor vehicle means every vehicle as defined in this section that is self-propelled or designed for self-propulsion except as otherwise provided in this title. Any structure, design, used, or primary will be loaded on or affixed to a motor vehicle be provided, blah, 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 motor dwelling, sleeping place. Shall be considered part of a motor vehicle except as otherwise provided for the purpose of this title. Any device here again defined as a bicycle or electronic or moped shall be deemed not to be a motor vehicle.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Mr. Farthing, what you're saying is that if something is defined as a motor vehicle, it's a motor vehicle is a motor vehicle, that we can't make a distinction between the two? I mean, I get, under 58.1-3505, does item 13B, doesn't give us the flexibility to do that? May not, I don't, yeah.
That's what I was just reading, Gary. I was thinking the way I looked at it, it says you could exempt part of them.
Yeah, you don't have to take, I mean, you could exempt the cows and not exempt the sheep, if that's what you want to do. I mean, you have that discretion to exempt one thing or the other. So the challenge to me would be, how do you write that? Because this section, as it's written in the code, is any motor vehicle that's not required to be registered under these other code sections with the DMV. And one of those, the 46.2-665, is you're not required to obtain registration certificate for any pickup or panel truck, sport utility vehicle, vehicles weighing more than 7,500 pounds, and trailers that are used in the operation of agriculture purposes.
I guess my concern with the whole thing is that and I don't know that the code allows us to do this, but it seems like we're attacking the problem wrongly in the fact that we're looking just at equipment and not who uses that equipment. I still think that we need, to include, if it's, permissible or legal, definition of who a farmer is. And I think that may be defined as, through the federal income tax if they file a Schedule F. I know that one of the things that we were looking at is all these farm use vehicles that are pickup trucks or SUVs, or I've even seen them on a motorcycle. And so, but I think that probably, and I don't know, maybe Sheriff King could help us if anybody's ever been stopped and asked if they file an Schedule F. Probably a lot of these people that are driving around in these farm use vehicles don't even know what that is.
Defining what a farmer is, what does that have to do with this taxation?
Well, if we technically exempt, we'll say farm equipment or even motor vehicles, if for somebody that is a legitimate farmer, all right, for instance, if you have a farm use tag on a truck and you're using it specifically the way that it's supposed to be used, that's fine. If I put a farm use tag on a truck and I ought to be stopped and fined.
Well, I mean, it's already in the code section. The sheriff can stop them and fine them if it's not used as a farm purpose. But I mean, we cannot. I mean, that's already in the code of Virginia. Yes.
One that we have been able to successfully prosecute, not just on the question of are you a farmer or not. The burden of proof is on us. We can't ask them to produce anything to prove it. However, what we have been able to cite them on and successfully prosecute is using the vehicle for non-farm uses.
Mm-hmm.
Like driving into school, that is not a covered activity under a farm use vehicle.
Or going to the grocery store.
Going to the grocery store is, that's good. If you're buying groceries to use in your production on the farm, feeding your farm animals, that is a farm use vehicle.
Okay, it's a stretch.
There's a lot of things that stretch in that section. It's just, if they find somebody, like driving to work to our equipment or somewhere out there, they can charge them for that because that's not farm purposes. But other than that, it's.
I'm not sure I'm real clear on what you guys want me to do. My understanding is you want me to draft an ordinance to exempt from personal property taxes what the county's assessing and taxing and collecting money on. Whether or not the sheriff enforces somebody using it or not has nothing to do with us collecting taxes on it.
Right.
So if we're collecting taxes on it, then it becomes a practicality issue is what's the most efficient way to do that? You know, we get the DMV list from showing all the type of vehicles. So we can find those trucks. You can do a self-reporting thing where Faye would have to send out some kind of form saying, list all your equipment. If you exempt the farm equipment that's used for farming, and we somehow figure out how to define that, then we're not collecting taxes on that. We can't really figure out what that is anyway unless they self-report it. With a vehicle, we have access to a list from DMV saying he owns this vehicle, and then if he uses it for farm use, I don't know if there's an exoneration process. He can come in and say, this is it, however we write that definition, to come in and exonerate that vehicle off. You have a challenge because if I've got a dually pickup truck and I've got a dump truck that I use for silage twice a year, it's hard for the commissioner's office to determine, well, which one is it? You know, because I can use that dually to pull a trailer with silage on it. But I'm also going to use the dually to run to the grocery store and run my kids to school too. The issue is the self-reporting citizens aren't following the law, that, at least how we perceive it, that they should be doing.
But our only task, and actually the only thing that we can legally do as far as the Board of Supervisors, is decide what is exempt from taxes as per the Code of Virginia. And once we do that, then it falls to the Commissioner's office. Is that not right?
That's right.
Okay.
We've already given all these exemptions. Now we're really debating short-term usage of a very specified truck. If we worry about the silage truck that's used a couple times a year, why wouldn't it be just as fair to worry about a flatbed truck that hauls the logs once a year, or another truck that's used seldom? So it seems practical to me that we just include all trucks. If the individual farmer has a case that he wants to come to the commissioner and beg forgiveness and understanding and exemption, then they can do that. And in that net, there's going to be a little bit of pain for the farmer, but the gain for the tax base and the revenue should help the farmer in keeping us from visiting real estate taxes again. It's an effort to broaden the revenue streams instead of riding the back of the landowners all the time. So it just takes a bit of courage to vote for it, but I don't think it's a new tax. It's just catching the ones that haven't been playing fair before.
And, you know, I'd like to say, you know, since our last meeting, I've been taking note of the people that's, you know, the vehicles I see with farm use tags on it. And just since our last meeting, I've seen 6 new vehicles that I hadn't seen before, pickups that had farm use tags on them. I mean, when you know, it's, to me, I think it's, you know, the counties has got a problem with people, you know, running farm use tags on vehicles.
Can I say something? I don't know.
Yes, Ms. Fay, come on up.
I don't know whether it's possible or not. I just am here thinking, and I don't know whether, is there any way that there can be an ordinance passed that you can't run those farm use tags at all? No.
That deals with the Code of Virginia. That'd have to be the General Assembly to do that.
No, I mean, the plastic ones is what I'm saying. You know, the ones that they buy from DMV are fine, but
I'm not a county attorney, but Virginia is dealing real estate. And most of it's either shadow or made. The only issue concerning vehicle licensing, except for our decals that we can address, is the decal. And under the state, under licensing of vehicles, or state tax, has given these exemptions. Who defines those? It's a court and a judicial matter and a legal matter. The only thing the board can do under dealing with the whole state is address it through this taxation issue. So licensing, whether it has a farm tag, a NAB tag, or a plastic tag, is a matter that the board has no discretion under the deal with real estate. It's, I mean, we can only, and the reason we're discussing this, it says may in here instead of shall. The local board may, and I think that's how we need, the board needs to focus the direction on, are we exempting them or not? It says may, so you can pick and choose of those mays. If I can interject, so, you know, what we may do is the decision of the board.
But what we're looking at, I think, let me make sure I understand, is this a substantial enough change that we have a public hearing?
You need to have a public hearing to adopt this ordinance. Yes.
Okay.
Actually, under this, and I think it benefits all of us and our citizens too, that our previous ordinance, we didn't exempt all these personal property items filing.
Right.
So this is a substantial change that we're codifying
What we were doing.
What we were doing, or have been doing.
So right now, our discussion is actually, is this what we want to take forward to a public hearing?
Right, yes.
Okay. And the thing about tractors now, and just for my own edification, a landscaper does not pay personal property, he pays machine and tools tax on it? Is that right? Okay. So it's different from personal property?
Well, if I may, machine tools tax is a different classification of personal property.
I understand that, and no, I know that, and that's why I was asking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the purpose of the machinery that gets it over machine tools tax.
Yeah.
The tax code, which Fay knows a lot more than I do about it, makes it, clarifies that codification, which is which, whether it's a farm.
Right, and that was the only point I was making, is that, if we say that we're exempting tractors from personal property, we understand we're actually, for somebody, for a landscaper, and I'm not advocating either way, I'm just saying, just for a point of clarification, they are not charged personal property, they're charged machine and tools tax. So,
You know, I'm along the same years from a farmer, but I got 4 or 5 old trucks that I keep up there. I keep them for parts from vehicles that I do use. Why should I be treated different than a farmer?
To address, Mr. Hausman, your concern about the silage trucks, the code section up there, paragraph number 12, in the ordinance in your package, it's under K, motor vehicles that are used exclusively for agriculture purposes, for which the owner is not required to obtain a registration certificate pursuant to these code sections. So that 46.2666 is for vehicles used for seasonal transportation of farm produce and livestock. So it kind of gives a little, how do we exempt under this section, which is they can't go more than 50 miles from the farm. It can be pickup or panel trucks, sport utility vehicles, vehicles having a gross weight over 7,500 pounds, and trailers and semi-trailers. So that may fall into that category. I mean, you could put that back in there with only this code section attached to it. The other code section picks up more general pickup trucks in that one. But you're still going to have some exoneration issues. I mean, the farmer can come in and say, this is an old silage truck. It qualifies under this 666 section because it's just a silage truck. We use it twice a year. It goes 35 miles to pick up the corn and bring it back. So that might address the concern that you have, if you want to add. It will cause some confusion, but, you know, the commissioner's office would just have to deal with that and have to figure out how to do it.
Well, I would think, a suggestion I would make is if we go forward with this and set a public hearing, is that after hearing all public comments, that like the next day or whenever we set a work session to go over those comments, just as we do with the the budget. Just to take, all those comments into account, because I think we may have some. I guess what I'm saying is, I'd rather for us, if we have a public hearing, not voted on it that night, but have an opportunity to take into account all the comments and then vote on it.
But if we make any major changes, after the public hearing, we'll have to have another public hearing.
Depends on what the changes are. I mean, if you're taxing less stuff by making a change and exempting something else, I think you're okay. If you take an exemption away after the public hearing, saying that we shouldn't exempt all this farm stuff, then you probably should have a public hearing. Another one.
And that way, if this goes forward more restrictive and we make it less restrictive, we're okay.
Yes.
Boy, I think the answer to your question is.
Buy me a cow.
And you can eat the parts then.
Yes. You're not gonna bother me. I tell you what's gonna happen to mine. I'm gonna take a torch down there and cut them in two. They're not trucks no more, they're junk.
I mean, I agree with Coy. I mean, if somebody's got an old car sitting out there that they're keeping for parts, I mean, why should they have to be paying taxes on it? But I mean, maybe they won't be valued enough that they can be taxed. I don't know, but.
The PPTR only applies to registered vehicles, right?
No,
It applies to all vehicles?
it would apply to all vehicles.
Oh, okay. Is that different from what we were saying the other day?
No, we've always just done registered, but if we pick up the title, it's going to affect the PPTRA also.
So if somebody has an old car out there that has a value of less than $1,000, they're not getting a tax ticket on it anyway?
Right, but it takes it off.
Yeah, I understand it affects,
It affects the
right.
higher price vehicles then.
That, in essence, going to raise everybody's taxes on personal property.
But in Corey's situation with old trucks that are worth less than $1,000, he won't get a personal property
As long as
tax.
it's less than
God dang what that, I like to
75
sell them for that.
If he's got a F-250 or a ton truck out there,
They're not under that then. They're
he'd have to pay it.
classified as business.
I've been up Coy, but I don't know what, I didn't even notice what I drove by, to tell you the truth. I just know the house.
Like I say, you're not gonna bother me. I'll just cut mine. Make junk out of them. And they'll still be sitting there.
If you count them in two, you still have a title for them, they're still going to be there.
Yeah.
We may charge you double then because you got two parts.
Okay, I have a motion that we move forward with the public hearing on April the, what did we set the other one for? The first meeting in, no, April the.
And are you asking for motion based off what Scott has presented?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would be on April the 8th, the public hearing along with the other one. I have a motion.
Yeah, I move that we move forward to a public hearing on April 8th.
Have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Can we have a,
Any discussion?
one thing that I'd like to ask is if we could have a formal presentation by staff that explains what we're doing and maybe even why, so that, it's not just, what people see up, up on the board. I mean, that's just a request before we vote, and I also would like,
When would that be? At the public hearing?
at the public hearing. The other thing I would like to ask, and of course, it's just a request that we may have, substantial number of people here to make comments, and that we don't make a decision that night, that we do come back if there's a substantial number of comments and review those, those things to see. And I'm sorry, I know that it's a motion and second, but that was.
I mean, we can take that up that night. I mean, we can set a work session on it if there's that many, comments on it.
Okay.
We'll just have to see that night if there's that many comments on it. Any other comments or discussion?
It's on the same vein, but it's probably a pretty good practice for Board of Supervisors never to adopt an ordinance unless it's absolutely critical that you don't have any other alternative to wait until the next meeting to discuss the comment.
I agree, but we have voted on things at the end of a public hearing, and I just want to make sure that we don't, or I would suggest that we don't do that with this one.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Mr. Dalton, do we have any other thing to come before the board? Do you want to recess or adjourn to go to the schools? Do we have anything else this afternoon?
Can we call Mr. Brand and say we're going to get there early, so we can finish her? We can tour the school and then eat lunch. And then you'll get
Do we have any other business we need to come back here and,
She's running.
huh?
I guess we'll still be in
Yeah.
session during the
Well,
meeting.
we need recess.
It ain't felt too much.
Board's in recess.